So my first impression of my wife. I mean, honestly, I didn't think too much because I'm just being really raw here. So Valentine's coming up, and Jane and I, we thought of just sharing our marriage story and how God brought us together. And so, yeah, we're here at a cafe and we just share our story.
So, have you ever celebrated Valentine's Day before marriage?
I never celebrated Valentine's Day because it wasn't really something really urgent for me, I guess. I never dated, and I wanted to save myself, right, for marriage, to wait for God's timing. So I know Valentine's wasn't really, to be honest, really like an important thing for me growing up in the States and also even in Korea. Yeah.
Then, how come you never dated someone? What was your view of marriage when you're younger?
Yeah, so I never dated because I had a really good mentor. He was my youth pastor, and he really advised me to wait. And this was back in like middle school and then also in high school. I really trusted him. He was like my shepherd, older, you know, father figure, and he really advised me to wait for God's timing and to save myself for marriage, to honor God and to honor my future spouse. And so I think that those values were like implemented in me. It was like from an early age because of my youth pastor, and I'm really thankful that I listened to it. When I thought about marriage, I always had a negative view on it because I just saw the marriage that my parents had, and it was really tough. I know that they loved each other, but there were a lot of struggles. Being an immigrant family, there was a lot of financial strains and difficulties in the relationship. For me as a child, seeing that and processing that, I couldn't really understand why there was a lot of relational and emotional strain in my family, between them. And so for me, my view of marriage was very negative. I actually didn't want to get married because I was afraid of if my marriage, you know, becomes like this. It's all kind of like the negative side of that really close hand. And so I actually was afraid of getting into any relationship, to be honest, not just marriage, but any relationship, because I was afraid of failure. What if it doesn't work out? What if I'm not ready? I had so many questions, and I couldn't handle thinking about that and thinking about the outcome just because of my one decision. Like my whole life is ruined. It's a big decision. So yeah, I think because of that, I had some difficulties and fear. I guess I was really cautious about any relationships. I think that was also another factor of why I didn't get into a relationship. I wanted to really take it slow and make sure that God is really leading me into a relationship, right? Rather than just what I think.
So, you had this negative view of marriage and fear about marriage, but how did you
I
overcome?
think there's two things. Like number one, I think I was able to overcome it through my community, and because marriage is really about centered about relationships, and I got to see what a healthy relationship looks like in a church setting. In my home or just around me, it was really tough to see a God-centered relationship. It wasn't like me dating and then trying it out and seeing if it would work out or not, or in church in Korea. It really gave me a picture and yeah, what that looks like. And so that really helped me a lot. The first thing was the community. Second thing was within the community, right? I had a really good, deep relationship with my pastor in Korea as well. For me, he's like my spiritual father, and I hear about his marriage and even just how he treats his wife, how he talks about her. Just these things really just for me, it was like a new world. Because, in my family personally, we didn't really communicate much. If we had to communicate, it was mostly centered on work or just like finance. It wasn't really about talking about deep things and also because the the language barrier, I think the generational differences, and I think it's the financial strain, right? I think my conversation was more based upon the finance rather than like actual just, how are you doing? But yeah, I think definitely seeing how my spiritual mentor modeled that, just in a very natural way, candid way, I think that really saw, okay, this is like an example of what I want to model after in my future relationships. And it doesn't have to be marriage per se, just any relationship. When I saw my spiritual mentor, I really saw Jesus in him and how he would relate to them, he would ask questions and how to build a relationship. And I think that was the difficulty for me, how to actually build a relationship with people through that. And also just personal, like my quiet time, my personal solitude time with the Lord. I think what really changed the most was how God views me from his perspective, from his eyes, rather than seeing myself from my own eyes or seeing myself from the eyes of my parents or society or my friends or peers. And so I think all of these combinations, I think, really opened my heart for a relationship and also for marriage. I think there was like this one instance in college where in my freshman year, actually, there's like this whole purity ceremony thing that I did in my Christian college. I really just did it before the Lord, and I wanted to really prepare my heart and my thoughts, everything for the vision that God's given to me, and then for the marriage. And so that was my freshman year. And then I remember in sophomore year, I still wasn't dating. And I remember one day I was just walking around campus, and I saw so many like couples in my school. They call them CC, campus couple. It's kind of like the American version of Ring by Spring, right? Because my school was a very kind of small Christian school. There wasn't really much things to do. A lot of my classmates, or they were dating already in the freshman year, sophomore year. And I was kind of a little bit envious, I'm like, oh God, when is my time? Because I've been waiting ever since middle school, high school. I never dated. I trusted the Lord that He will provide in His timing, right? And so I asked God, I can't lie, I was a little bit envious. The Lord, I think, really spoke to my heart. He asked me, Nehemiah, do you think that if you got into a relationship that you'll be fully satisfied? And he said, I felt like he was saying to me, Nehemiah, you have the best relationship right now. And that relationship is with me. And I felt like the Lord was giving me, impressing his heart with these words. Right now, I have the best relationship, which is with God. And nothing else matters. No other relationship, no other success, or anything else that I was craving and longing for could ever fill me. What makes you think that if you got into a relationship that you will be happy, right? God really spoke to me through that, and it really changed my perspective of singleness and how singleness is really a gift rather than seeing it as something like a pain, or because it's really a gift because at the time, more time to really spend time with him. For me, that singleness was really growing deeply in love with him more and more in Korea. And so I'm really thankful that I went through that season with Jesus.
How was it when you first met me? So, what were your thoughts?
So my first impression of my wife, I mean, honestly, I didn't think too much because I'm just being really raw here. I think at that time I wasn't looking for anyone at that time. I was still young, right? Yeah, I think you were just like a older sister.
So
Another
passing by human one.
a human one.
Android one.
Yeah. I guess I just naturally thought that I would marry someone younger than me. And so I just thought, oh, it's just an older sister in my church. I think I was really comfortable talking to you. I think you really made me feel comfortable. I think it changed over the years because I think I got to see you firsthand who you are. Because, we were not in a dating relationship. We were in a kind of brother-sister relationship. And so I got to see you more holistically. I think a lot of times what happens with dating is that people get into a relationship and they just like each other and then they're not able to see the full picture of that person. But I think being in a very healthy community, I got to see you in a very holistic light. I got to see your strengths and weaknesses as well. And you probably got to see my strengths and weaknesses too. And I think from there, I've had feelings for you. I think it was like a gradual process. I think in the beginning, like you were like, evangelizing, and we were sharing the gospel and doing, one-to-ones discipleship with the exchange students who would come to Korea, help one soul, one sheep. I think the feelings started to happen, and I saw like God changing my views about you. One time I was like praying for you, and you were in Bangladesh or India, I think. And I think you had a prayer request asking us, our English ministry members, to pray for you because you're going on a business trip, like interest in you. But I just like, okay, she's my sister, and I wanted to pray for you. When I was praying for you, like God was giving me the impression that God is near you, that God is with you, and like that God sees you very preciously. And so I was like, oh wow, this is the heart of God for you. So from there, it kind of grew, I think. I started to grow more and more feelings towards you, and I saw how much you love the international students who came. And there were a lot of students who come and go, but I remember each semester you were faithfully like helping them, not just spiritually, but even like physical things like living in Korea and all that. I saw that your heart for the international students, and I remember when you decided to live with a few international sisters in order to disciple them, in order to be their shepherd. And I remember you taking that step of faith. You're living in a better condition, better apartment, but you wanted to disciple them, so you went and you lived with them. Pretty much until we got married, you were living with them. And I saw like, wow, she really has a heart for the nations, really has a heart for discipleship, for the souls. So that really like opened my heart. And then there was another instance where I remember when you were working at the company, and even though like your boss was not so like kind, you would still respect him because you believe that God put you in that workplace for a reason. So you trusted God, and despite what the conditions in the workplace is, like you still respected your boss. So that really like, wow, she really knows how to respect authority, like spiritual authority and also earthly authority as well. I don't think anyone I know would do this. I mean, I don't know, but it's very rare that anyone would do that. Even a Christian, right? So people would just be like, oh, forget it. My boss is toxic and so I'm gonna leave, right? But you really received the heart of God to stay in this workplace. And I remember you like helping the boss's daughter. And I know that she was going through her own difficulties, personal problems, and you would even like go to help her, even out of your time. So I saw that, and then I remember like she got much better. She came to our church as well. And I was like, wow, like I see the changes in her, and also because of your respect and like how you treated your boss despite the condition. Your colleague asked you, and she came to know Christ through you. And when I was hearing that, I was like, wow, she really is a woman of God, and that really drew me even more to you.